Hey everyone, welcome back to the podcast. I'm Emma, and joining me as always is Jake. Jake, how are you doing today?
I'm doing great, Emma. A little suspicious, though. My coffee was unusually good this morning, and now I'm wondering if someone is trying to butter me up.
Oh no, the conspiracy thinking has already started, and we haven't even begun the episode yet. That is actually a perfect lead-in, because today we are talking about conspiracy theories, how to discuss them, the vocabulary around them, and why people believe in them.
Yes, and I want to say up front, we're not here to tell anyone what to believe. We're just exploring the topic, which is honestly one of the most fascinating corners of human psychology.
Exactly. So let's start simple. Jake, how would you actually define a conspiracy theory for someone who maybe hasn't heard the term before?
Sure. So a conspiracy theory is basically an explanation for an event that says a secret group of powerful people planned it, secretly, behind the scenes, usually for their own benefit. The key word is secret. There's always this hidden plot involved.
Right. And the word conspiracy itself comes from the idea of people breathing together, conspiring, which means planning something together in secret. So it has this built-in sense of secrecy and coordination.
And what's interesting is that not all conspiracies are theories. Like, real conspiracies have happened in history. Watergate, for example, that was an actual conspiracy. A group of people secretly planned to do something illegal, and it turned out to be true.
That's such a good point. I think a lot of people forget that distinction. A conspiracy theory becomes a theory in the informal sense when there's no solid evidence to support it, or when the evidence people use is kind of stretched, forced to fit the story.
Exactly. The word theory in everyday language means something unproven. But in science, a theory is actually well supported. So when people say it's just a theory, they're using the word differently than scientists do. A little language trap there.
Oh, I love that you brought that up. So in casual conversation, if someone says, I have a theory, they usually mean I have a guess or I have a hunch, not a scientifically tested idea.
Right. And conspiracy theories live very much in that casual, guess-based world, even though believers often feel like they've done their research and found real proof.
So let's talk about some of the most well-known conspiracy theories, just to give our listeners a reference point. What's the first one that comes to mind for you?
Honestly, the moon landing. The idea that NASA faked the Apollo 11 moon landing in 1969, that it was all filmed in a studio somewhere, probably by Stanley Kubrick, is probably one of the most famous conspiracy theories in the world.
Poor Stanley Kubrick. He just can't escape that rumor. So what do believers of that theory actually claim? What's their argument?
Well, they point to things like the way the flag appears to wave in the photos, even though there's no wind in space. Or they say the lighting looks too perfect, like studio lighting. They also question why we've never gone back to the moon in the same way.
And the counter-argument, the response to those claims, is usually pretty straightforward, right? The flag was designed with a horizontal rod to keep it extended. It wasn't actually waving. And the lighting was just the sun in space, which behaves differently without an atmosphere.
Yes, and hundreds of thousands of people worked on the Apollo program. Keeping a secret that big, with that many people involved, would be nearly impossible. Secrets tend to leak. That's just human nature.
That's actually a really strong argument against many conspiracy theories. The bigger the supposed cover-up, the more people would need to be involved, and the harder it is to keep quiet.
There's even a scientist, David Grimes, who did the math on this. He calculated how long it would take for a conspiracy to be exposed based on how many people were in on it. For something like the moon landing, with that many participants, it would have leaked within a few years.
Okay, so what about the flat Earth theory? Because that one has made a real comeback in recent years, especially on social media.
A flat Earth is fascinating from a psychological standpoint. The core belief is that the Earth is actually flat, like a disk, and that governments, NASA, airlines, and scientists have all been hiding this from us for centuries.
Which raises the question, why? Why would anyone want to hide the shape of the Earth?
Right. That's always the tricky part with conspiracy theories. The why is often vague or doesn't quite hold together logically. Believers sometimes say it's about control or money, like maybe space agencies are faking everything to get government funding.
The motive, the reason behind the supposed secret, is often the weakest part of a conspiracy theory. You can pull at that thread pretty quickly, and the whole argument starts to unravel. Unravel meaning fall apart, come undone.
That's a great way to put it. And I'll say I've actually spoken to people who genuinely believe the Earth is flat, and they weren't unintelligent people at all. They were curious, they asked questions, they just ended up down a very particular rabbit hole.
Down a rabbit hole, yes. That phrase comes from Alice in Wonderland, and it means you've gone deep into something strange or complicated, often without meaning to. And the internet is absolutely full of rabbit holes.
Full of them. And this brings up something important. The internet has supercharged conspiracy theories. In the past, if you had a fringe belief, a belief outside the mainstream, it was hard to find others who agreed with you. Now you can find your community instantly online.
And that creates what some people call an echo chamber, a place where you only hear ideas that confirm what you already believe. You're not really getting challenged, you're just getting validation.
Echo chamber is such a vivid phrase. You say something and it bounces right back at you unchanged. No friction, no pushback.
So let's talk about why people are drawn to conspiracy theories in the first place. What's the psychological pull? Jake, do you have any thoughts on that?
Yeah, this is the part I find most interesting. One big reason is the need for control, or at least the feeling of control. When something scary or confusing happens in the world, our brains want an explanation. A clear answer, even a bad one, feels better than uncertainty.
So it's almost like the human brain can't tolerate we don't know. It prefers a wrong answer over no answer at all.
Exactly. Psychologists call this the need for cognitive closure. Closure meaning a satisfying ending, a complete explanation. And conspiracy theories offer that. They say, here's what really happened. Here's who's responsible. Here's the hidden truth.
And there's also the appeal of feeling like you're in on a secret, right? Like you figured something out that most people haven't.
Oh, absolutely. There's a certain satisfaction, even a kind of pride, in believing you've seen through the official story. You're not a sheep. You're a critical thinker. At least that's how it feels from the inside.
Right. The classic do your own research mentality. Which is interesting because genuine critical thinking actually involves looking at evidence from multiple sources and being willing to change your mind. It's not just finding sources that agree with you.
That's the difference between being skeptical and being contrarian. A skeptic questions everything equally, including their own beliefs. A contrarian just disagrees with whatever the mainstream says, automatically.
That's such a useful distinction. And language-wise, contrarian is a great word. Someone who takes the opposite position, kind of reflexively, almost as a habit.
And conspiracy communities can breed a lot of contrarian thinking, because going against authority becomes part of the group identity. It's not just a belief anymore, it's who you are.
Let's shift gears a little and talk about some useful phrases for discussing conspiracy theories in English, because you might be at a dinner table or in a conversation and this topic comes up, and you want to be able to engage without sounding either dismissive or like you're fully buying into everything.
Right. There's a kind of middle ground, a balanced space, where you can say, that's interesting, but I want to see more evidence. Or, I can see why people think that, but here's another way to look at it.
Yeah. Phrases like, "I see where you're coming from," are great. That means, "I understand your perspective. I get how you arrived there." It's respectful without being in agreement.
Or, "That's worth looking into," which is non-committal. You're not agreeing, you're not dismissing, you're just leaving the door open.
And if you want to push back a bit, push back meaning disagree or challenge, you could say something like, "What's the source on that?" Or, "Where did you read that?" That invites the person to reflect on their evidence without directly calling them wrong.
Those are genuinely useful life skills, not just English skills.
Totally. Okay, I want to bring up one more big conspiracy theory before we move into the broader conversation, and that's QAnon, because it's hard to talk about this topic without mentioning it.
Yeah, QAnon is a good case study because it's relatively recent and it spread entirely through the internet. The basic claim was that there's a secret group of Satan-worshipping elites, politicians, celebrities, who are running a global child trafficking network, and that a figure known only as Q had inside information about this.
And the structure of it was fascinating from a media perspective. Q would post these cryptic, mysterious messages called Q drops, and followers would interpret them, almost like solving a puzzle, which is incredibly engaging, actually.
It gamified the belief system. Gamified meaning it made it feel like a game. There were clues to decode, patterns to find, a narrative unfolding in real time. That's extremely compelling, especially for people who feel overlooked or powerless.
And the sense of community was huge. People weren't just reading theories alone. They were joining forums, decoding messages together, feeling like they were part of something important.
It gave people purpose. And I think that's an underappreciated aspect of conspiracy theories. They often fill a social and emotional need, not just an intellectual one.
That's really well said. It's not about stupidity at all. In many cases, it's about belonging, purpose, and meaning.
Which makes it much harder to simply argue someone out of a conspiracy belief. You can't just show them facts and expect them to change their mind, because the belief is connected to something deeper than facts.
Exactly. Researchers call this deep-rooted belief, meaning the idea has taken hold at a level that isn't easily reached by rational argument alone. The roots go too deep.
And this is why conversations about conspiracy theories, whether in English or any language, require a lot of patience and empathy. Empathy meaning the ability to understand how someone else feels, to put yourself in their shoes.
Put yourself in their shoes. Another great idiom. It means imagine yourself in their situation. Understand their point of view from the inside.
And when you approach it with empathy instead of mockery, people are actually more likely to open up and reconsider. Mockery, making fun of someone, tends to make people defensive and dig in even harder.
There's research on this too. Debunking strategies, methods for correcting false beliefs, are more effective when they're done respectfully and when they offer an alternative explanation. You can't just take away a belief without giving someone something to replace it with.
Like, if someone believes a disease was created in a lab for population control, and you just say, that's wrong, they still have the original fear and uncertainty. But if you explain what actually causes disease, how that has been studied, how health authorities work, you're giving them a framework, a different way of organizing the information.
A framework. Yes. A mental structure for making sense of the world. That's a really elegant way to put it.
Thank you. I have my moments.
You really do. Okay, let's talk about the language of doubt and disbelief, because when you're in English conversations about conspiracy theories, you'll hear a lot of these expressions.
Sure. Things like, that sounds far-fetched, meaning hard to believe, too far from reality to take seriously. Like the idea was fetched from very far away.
Or, that doesn't hold water, meaning the argument doesn't work when you examine it closely. It has holes in it. It leaks.
Oh, I love it doesn't hold water. You can picture this leaky bucket of an argument.
And And on the other side, someone promoting a conspiracy theory might say things like, "Wake up," meaning open your eyes to the hidden truth. Or do your research, as we mentioned. Or the mainstream media doesn't want you to know this.
The mainstream media is a phrase that comes up constantly. It refers to large, established news organizations, CNN, the BBC, major newspapers. In conspiracy circles, these are seen as mouthpieces for whoever is supposedly in control.
And questioning mainstream sources isn't inherently wrong. Healthy skepticism toward any information source is good. The problem is when people only trust sources that confirm their existing beliefs and dismiss everything else as propaganda.
Propaganda.
Information that's intentionally biased or misleading, designed to promote a particular agenda. That's another word you'll hear a lot in these discussions.
Jake, I want to ask you something a bit more personal. Have you ever believed something that turned out to be wrong? Like, have you gone down a rabbit hole before?
Oh, absolutely. Years ago, I was really convinced for a while that a certain popular food additive was being hidden from the public because it was dangerous. And I went deep into these forums and felt like I had really uncovered something. And then I actually read the peer-reviewed research, the proper scientific studies, and it completely fell apart.
What made you go back and check?
Honestly, a friend challenged me. Not in a mean way. They just asked, "Where are you getting this from?" And I started tracing back my sources and realized they all led back to the same few websites, none of which were citing any real research.
That's such a good example of source tracing, following the chain of where information comes from. And it can be eye-opening. Eye-opening meaning it reveals something surprising. It changes how you see things.
It genuinely was. And I wasn't embarrassed after. I was actually kind of impressed by how easily I had been pulled in. It made me much more careful going forward.
And that's a really healthy attitude. I think the embarrassment around having believed something wrong actually stops people from updating their views. Nobody wants to admit they were fooled.
There's a concept called sunk cost fallacy, where you keep investing in something, whether it's time, money, or belief, just because you've already put so much into it. Admitting you were wrong feels like losing everything you invested.
So people double down instead of stepping back. Double down meaning they commit even harder to the belief, sometimes becoming more extreme rather than less.
Which is why you sometimes see conspiracy beliefs escalate, get more intense over time, rather than fading when predictions don't come true. The believers find new explanations for why the prediction failed, rather than questioning the whole framework.
Psychologists call that belief perseverance, holding on to a belief even in the face of contradicting evidence. Contradicting meaning working against, pointing in the opposite direction.
It's remarkably human, though. We all do versions of this. We all hold on to things longer than we should sometimes.
Oh, completely. I've held on to hairstyles way past their expiration date.
The relevance of that comparison is questionable, but I'll allow it.
Thank you for your generosity. Okay, let's talk a little bit about how to navigate these conversations in English, especially if you're a learner in an English-speaking environment where these topics come up.
Sure. I think one key thing is to not feel pressured to have a strong opinion immediately. It's completely okay in English conversation, culturally, to say, "I haven't thought much about this," or "I'd need to look into that more before forming an opinion."
That signals intellectual honesty.
You're not faking certainty. And in English, that kind of measured, careful response actually sounds very mature and credible.
Another useful phrase is, "I'm on the fence about this," meaning you haven't decided yet. You're in the middle. The fence is the boundary between two positions, and you're sitting right on top of it.
A bit uncomfortable, but fair.
And what if someone shares a conspiracy theory with you and you do think it's wrong? How do you respond without being rude or dismissive?
I'd go with something like, "That's an interesting take. Have you seen the counterarguments?" Or,
I've read something different about that. You're not attacking them, you're creating space for a conversation.
An interesting take is a good neutral phrase. A take in informal English means someone's perspective or interpretation. What's your take on this? Means, what do you think about it?
And if you want to express genuine disagreement more directly, you can say, I respectfully disagree, or I see it differently. Those phrases keep things civil, meaning polite and non-confrontational.
Civil is such an important word here. Keeping a conversation civil means everyone can speak and feel heard, even when there's disagreements. The opposite would be things getting heated, emotional, argumentative, maybe even hostile.
And conspiracy theory conversations can get heated very fast, partly because people feel their identity is on the line. So keeping your tone calm and your language respectful goes a long way.
Before we wrap up, I want to touch on one more angle. The difference between genuine investigative skepticism and conspiracy thinking. Because I don't want anyone to walk away thinking all questioning of authority is bad.
Right. That's really important. Investigative journalism, for example, has uncovered real cover-ups. Governments do lie sometimes. Corporations hide information. History is full of cases where the official story wasn't the full story.
So, healthy skepticism, asking questions, wanting evidence, not accepting everything at face value, that's genuinely valuable. The difference is in the method. Are you following evidence wherever it leads? Or are you starting with a conclusion and working backward?
That's it exactly. Real critical thinking is open-ended. You're genuinely willing to be wrong. Conspiracy thinking tends to be closed. Every new piece of evidence just gets folded into the existing story.
And I think for our listeners who are learning English, this topic is a goldmine for vocabulary. You've got words like allegation, cover-up, debunk, credible, skeptical, mainstream, all really useful words for discussing news and current events in general.
Allegation is a good one. It means an accusation, something that someone claims happened but hasn't been proven yet. You'll see it in news headlines constantly.
And debunk, to debunk something, means to show that it's false or misleading, to expose a myth. Journalists and scientists often debunk misinformation.
Misinformation versus disinformation. Two words worth knowing. Misinformation is false information spread without necessarily intending to deceive. Disinformation is false information spread deliberately, with the intention of misleading people.
So intent is the difference. Misinformation might come from someone who genuinely believes something wrong. Disinformation comes from someone who knows they're lying.
Exactly. And conspiracy theories can be both. Sometimes the people spreading them truly believe every word. Other times, and this does happen, the theories are deliberately manufactured to confuse or manipulate people.
Which adds another layer of complexity to the whole conversation. And complexity, meaning it's complicated, it has many layers, is actually a great word to use when you want to sound thoughtful and balanced in English.
It's more complex than it seems. That one phrase will serve you well in almost any serious conversation.
Put that on a t-shirt. Okay, Jake, before we close, let's do a quick summary of some of the key vocabulary and phrases we've covered today.
All right, we've got conspiracy theory, cover-up, motive, rabbit hole, echo chamber, far-fetched, doesn't hold water, double down, on the fence, debunk, misinformation, disinformation, allegation, take, as in interesting take, and framework.
And idioms like pull at the thread, put yourself in their shoes, eye-opening, and down a rabbit hole. Plus, conversational phrases for navigating these discussions respectfully.
It's actually a pretty rich vocabulary set. And once you're comfortable with these words, you can talk about a huge range of topics. Politics, media, psychology, history.
That's what I love about choosing topics like this. You don't just learn words in a vacuum. You learn them in context, connected to real ideas and real conversations.
Which is exactly how language is supposed to be learned. In the wild, so to speak. In actual use.
In the wild, meaning in real, natural conditions, not in a classroom or textbook. I love that. All right, I think that's a wonderful place to land.
Agreed. And for our listeners, whether you believe the moon landing was faked or not, I hope this gave you some useful tools for talking about big, complicated topics in English.
Very diplomatic of you, Jake. Always appreciated. Thank you so much for being here. And thank you to everyone listening. Keep asking questions, keep practicing, and we will see you in the next episode. Take care, everyone.
See you next time.